Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 155 of a year of change, where today we are going to sort of start off our week 23. I've got a number of different things I want to sort of touch on. I briefly talked about them yesterday, but mainly today I just sort of want to get us back on track. I've noticed the past 2 or 3 weeks we've been watching sodium and stuff like that, and I have done a really shit job of it. I've always had to add extra stuff on there and try to figure stuff out and everything else. This week was the first week that I actually stayed below where I needed to be. And that's including adding additional salt. So I've sort of gone through everything. Went a little bit overboard. Actually, now that I think about it, that's even yesterday. Because I had pork chops yesterday, but I had mushroom soup on them and mushrooms and everything else, and it tasted really salty, but I sort of accounted for everything just with extra salt and threw in an extra teaspoon and stuff like that. But I really need to sort of start tracking that a lot better than I have been. So thank you for MyFitnessPal. That you can actually track salt, just table salt, in MyFitnessPal. It has 0 calories, but it'll keep your sodium levels going and it'll give you a rough idea as to where things stand. So what I tried to do is measure out, because I have no idea what. Like when I think of a teaspoon, I think of like an actual spoon rather than measurement. So I wanted to figure out how much I'm using in general. So here, by the way, here is my salt shaker. It looks like it's gone down a tremendous amount, but I've counted the turns and it isn't. But it looks much deeper than it was before. I don't know if that's because originally it was like up here, but whatever it was. But anyway, I'm not going to do a picture to compare. It looks like it's about twice as far down as it was before, plus it's tapering outward, which leads me to believe it's very bad. But what I found is that in order for me to get 1 teaspoon of salt out of this, I need to do 30 complete turns. Sorry, half turns. Basically, 180-degree turn, because when you're turning it, usually you're... Oh, sorry, that just blocked my face. When you're turning these, I usually will just go once. So, I'm going to put this down here just so it doesn't make a banging noise, which it did anyway. So one of those turns is about 180 degrees, and it took 10 of them to do exactly 1/3 of a teaspoon. So 30 of those, or 15 complete 360-degree revolutions, will do 1 teaspoon. So I've been using that as my baseline. And I've just been counting how many turns I use for each thing. And then during the day, I'm going to start adding those up. It doesn't take very long to get to where you need to be. 1 teaspoon is just, I think it's 1 teaspoon. Yeah. 1 teaspoon pretty much covers you for your salt for the day, for sodium levels, sorry. So I really need to sort of watch what I'm doing there, and I figure the best way to do this is to really get strict and start tracking this on MyFitnessPal. So I would recommend you do the same. Go up, I just bit myself, ow. Just go up, and it's just under table salt. It's one of the verified ones, so it has a little green check mark beside it. And it doesn't add any calories or anything else to it, so we're good there. But it'll give us a much better idea as to how much salt we're using. And I know it sounds weird, but take your salt shaker, whatever you normally have, and just do 5 shakes of it. And then measure that. See how many it's going to take to get like a 1/4 of a teaspoon, or a threed of a teaspoon, or a 1/4 of a teaspoon. Whatever that measurement is, and then you can quickly do the math. And that way, whenever you're actually putting salt on your food, this is what I'm going to be doing, is I can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know how much that is, and then I can just add that in as extra salt and everything else. There were still days I went over. There was one day on Monday I was so far below that I didn't even break 200 because I just had unflavored pea soup all day. It's not a long story or anything. I was going to say, it's a long story, but it's not. I just decided to eat pea soup all day. So when you're adding your stuff in there, at least that way we can track it. It's not something that you need to say, I can't have salt today because I've already gone over. Do it anyway. I mean, this is a gradual thing. At the end of the year, we'll get it where we need to be. This wasn't a matter of us saying, well, for the first 4 weeks, we're going to be doing sodium. So at the end of 4 weeks, that's where we are. That's what we want to do. I know I sort of said, at the end of 4 weeks, I want to be in that range. It's taking longer than I thought, but I think by us tracking it, it's going to make things a little easier. Usually when you're scanning stuff, it'll show how much sodium is in there and you're okay, but it's the extra salt. Because there's some stuff that you need a little bit of salt on there. So anyway, that's something to look forward to. But I really wanted to sort of start tracking that a little more in depth because we're sort of ramping up. This is the last week where we're only doing sodium, because next week we're going to start in on fat, which is sort of a bit of a change I want to do today. We aren't going to jump ahead and try to do this. We're going to do this every 4 weeks, so don't worry about your fat content. But just for this week, when you're buying stuff, just take a look at it. Just to sort of give you an idea so that at the end of the week you can go back and say, okay, well, I know that this generally has more fat than I thought it was going to, and which ones are good and which ones are bad. We'll get into all this next week as well, but there's the trans fats, which are in the midst of being banned. And then there is I can't remember the two names of them. There's something and then non-something. That'll be for next week, because I can't remember what it is. Saturated, there we go. Saturated fats and non-saturated or unsaturated fats. And then there's the regular trans fats, and then you just add them all up, and that's what your fat content is. So we're going to fiddle around with those and take a look and stuff like that. It's going to be a little easier doing that than it is for the sodium, because the majority of us don't just go, oh, this is great, I'm just going to put some extra fat on my food. So it should be a little easier to sort of get used to. And then that way we're going to be doing sodium and fat, and then eventually sodium, fat, and sugar. We'll get to where we need to be. We have more than 6 months to get there, so we're going to be okay. I had a thing I was going to bring up. That's it, I guess. I did my weigh-in. I forgot. We got to do our weigh-in today. So do your weigh-in once again 3 times. Take the highest number. I did my little sneak peek yesterday, and I knew I was going to be going over. Surprisingly, I didn't go over because of food, which was great, because I didn't think about it too much, and I added everything up late last night around 11 o'clock, and I was still under. Not by a lot, only by about 200 calories, but it's still under. But I didn't count in all the drinks I had, so I think that's probably what put me over. Or it would have put me over. But then I did my weigh-in, and yesterday, although I said, oh, I've lost a little bit, and, I don't know how this is going to turn out. Yeah, it didn't. It didn't turn out at all. Which is weird, because this morning, I got up, and I weigh myself the same time every single day. And this is actually something that sort of lends to that credo of you should weigh yourself at the same time every time that you do weigh-in. I generally weigh myself fairly early in the morning, for me anyway. Generally, once I get up, and I get my staggery self all together and I'm awake, that's when I do my weigh-in. So when I did my weigh-in, I found I had actually gained from yesterday, and I assume that was from like all the food and the liquid and everything else that's in there, so I don't feel too bad. But overall, throughout the week, I didn't lose. However, just before I started doing this recording, I also went and did another sneak peek. I wonder if there's any difference, because they do say, if you weigh yourself in the morning, you're less than you do you weigh in the afternoon. And I wanted to see how much of a difference that is, if it was like 2 pounds or half a pound or something like that. And I actually weigh less in the afternoon. If I had weighed myself just now, if I had done my weigh-in, then I would have been able to say, yes, I lost this week, which is really weird. So there's about a 0.8 pound difference. So I actually gained 0.4 pounds throughout the week, and then I lost 0.8 during the day, during the few hours between. That's only about a 5-hour time frame. So I have no idea. I don't know what to tell you. So we'll just keep our weigh-ins at the same time. I did notice, however, when I go back through my through the past month, I've only lost about 1 pound overall in the past month. So that's sort of part of the reason why I really want to focus in again on the sodium. And I haven't really missed anything that I'm tracking. I mean, there are things here and there, but it's on days when I have like 700 calories left, and I go, okay, well, I'm going to have an apple, and then I'm going to bed, or I'm going to have like a piece of candy or chocolate or something, and then I don't need to track it because there's 700 calories. I need to get away from that. Because it's not a plateau, because I've sort of gone up and then I've gone down and then I've gone up and gone down. It's just that I'm not tracking as strictly as we should be. And so I'm figuring I'm going to get into the salt thing. I'm going to start tracking my salt as well and get back to tracking absolutely everything. And I know I feel like I keep saying this, because I talked about this yesterday, when you're just like, oh, well, I'm just going to do this, and, I'll let this go a little bit. And I'm really worried about that. I know it's weird because I'm very much aware that I'm doing that, but I don't know if that makes a difference. So I'm going to do that. Anyway. So for this week, do your weigh-in. And we aren't going to be tracking our fat, so don't really go through and look at stuff like that. But just to sort of start reading labels more, and just like we did with the sodium, just be a little more aware of how much fat is in your food. And it's not bad, so don't worry. This isn't going to be something where we're going to say, all right, well, now we're cutting out fat. We don't have to have any more. It's going to be very simple stuff, just like we've always done. But it's just so that you can look at it and say, all right, you know what? I don't know which one of these I like more, but this has 1 gram of fat less. It tastes exactly the same. Then yeah, might as well get that. If it costs the same and it tastes the same, little things like that. Just don't look at it and say, oh, well, there's less fat, but there's more sugar and there's more sodium. It's, a little bit of a balancing act. So that's the main thing that we're just going to do this week is sort of get things prepared for next week when we actually start looking at it. And it's going to be fairly easy. Really, you're going to be fine. Don't worry. I also did a little bit more thinking on what I'm going to do with the treadmill, and I don't want to commit to anything just yet because I don't want to come back and go, yeah, I didn't do it, because I feel like I've been doing that a little too much. So I have a plan in mind. I'm going to keep going Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and as I was saying, and start with, every 30 minutes, start a run, every 29 minutes and stuff like that. I'm going to see, if I can do it every 20. I don't want to start at 30 if it's not really contributing. But I have a bit of a plan. I'm going to see if it'll work this week. It probably will. And if it does, I'll let you know at the end of the week. Oh, so excited. Secrets. But I don't want to just say, well, here's what I'm going to do, and then come back and say, I couldn't do it because it didn't quite work out because I'm not there yet. And that's, I've said this before. I don't want us jumping ahead as much as we want to sometimes to say I'm not losing quickly enough or I'm not exercising as much as I should. I don't want us to jump ahead to a point where we're going, yeah, this is great, and then we burn ourselves out and go, it's too hard, I don't want to do this anymore. I'd much rather us go a little too slowly. So I want to keep myself in that same thing. I don't know what it's called. Vein. I want to keep myself in that same cluster of groupings of people of things. And just sort of go from there and tentatively see what I can do. It's a change for the better in the long run. So that's the main thing. I think that's it. I'm looking at my cheat sheet and I've pretty much covered everything. So if you want, start going up and tracking your salt intake as well. There's an entry in there and it goes for 1 teaspoon, but you can obviously tweak that to, okay, well, I only had 5 turns. I'm going to do 0.4 or 0.2 or whatever it is for the teaspoons because it will do the math for you. I know I'm telling you this as if it's new information. You can tweak things back and forth that way. But for me, just because I really sort of want to keep an eye on this, and I know I'm still going to be going over, it's not the same as our calorie count, where you think, well, I shouldn't really do this because I'm going to go over. And those are a little easier because you can say, okay, well, I know I'm going to go over if I eat that, so I'm going to try to, for a different alternative. I'll have something healthy instead of that chocolate bar. But with sodium, it's the sort of thing you're like, I'm going to go over if I put salt on this, but it tastes bland. I need something on there. So we can have that. And then just the next day, just go, okay, I need to tweak things a little different and eat something that doesn't need extra salt on it. That's what I'm going to be doing anyway, just to sort of even things out so that by the end of the week, we should be fine. This week, as much as that's down, and when I'm doing all the measurements and stuff, and this is another thing that, again, I'm going, did I measure correctly? And I think I have, but there's always that little bit of doubt in the back of our head where you're going, you're lying, and you're lying. But I'm not. I don't think. Maybe. But that I'm just barely below the 2,300. It's around 2,240, I think, for the week. And that's what tells me that I'm just like, really? That's where it is? So, err on the side of caution. I'm going to say, okay, we're going to add another teaspoon in there. Just because of the level of that. And that I have to assume I'm missing something because I haven't been tracking it, day by day as I should have been, like with the extra salt on there. So I'm going to assume that I'm over. Even though all the numbers say I'm below, I have to assume I'm over. We'll know much, much more at the end of next week when I go back and say, now I know exactly how much extra salt I've used. I know how much sodium is in each thing that I'm using or that I'm eating. And I'll have a much better idea, and it's probably still through the roof, I figure. But because, overall, I think, as long as we're still aware of it, it's better than nothing. But I really want to get into that range between the 1,500 and the 2,300. But again, being realistic, I'm not going to... I don't know if you've ever had split pea soup that has no salt in it. but it doesn't even taste like peas. It just tastes, there's a texture to it, but there's no flavor. So you need a little something in there. Just normally I would have put in, just, that's the thing. I suppose normally I probably would have put in 2 or 3 times as much salt as I have been using. So I know at least I've cut back on the amount of salt that I'm putting in my food, so that's good. But again, I'm going to go. Here we are. Here we are. This does look a little too far down for my liking. So we'll keep going. This needs to last me until the end of the year is my goal. Like the end of this series, I will say. And I mean, that's after 3 weeks. So 6, 9, 12, 15. Sorry, yeah, I may need to cut back a little bit more. But I really want this to last to the end of the series. I don't want to fill this up again. I haven't bought any salt. And I'm not hiding salt on the side. So this is the main thing. For me, anyway. For some of you, it's going to be sugar. I'm going to cut way back on sugar anyway, though. Just sort of the added stuff. But we'll get into that later on because there's a bunch of interesting information that I've discovered. Yeah, it's interesting. And same thing with fat. But this is the main thing. I know I say to the end of the year, but I want to do this at day 365, at our final day. I still want there to be some salt in here. Or at the very least, that I haven't refilled it. But, oh look, there's some stuff stuck to the bottom. There we go. So, anyway, that is my goal. I want to keep on to that. And I'll put this over here now without thump. Oh, it's going to thump. No, there we go. Nice and quiet. Everything's fine. Anyway, I don't know if you heard that at all. We'll assume that you did. So, that's it for this week. Doing our weigh-in. Tracking salt, I think, is probably a good idea. Just where we're sort of looking at that. I mean, again, it's going to be months before we get to where we need to be, where your taste buds are going to change. It doesn't take very long. It takes a few weeks to get to where I've been. So, start tracking salt on MyFitnessPal as well. It should shed some light on it, and then eventually we'll be able to sort of move things down that way. But those are really it. That's it. Just the weigh-in, the salt thing. Because this is our last week of really focusing on salt. We're going to continue on as we go. This isn't a matter of saying, well, we did 4 weeks, and now you can put your salt level back up to where you need to be. That at the end of next week, or this week, I guess, at the start of next week, then we're going to continue on with the sodium, but we're going to start in on fat as well. So then you'll have 2 things that you'll be tracking. And then 4 weeks after that, that's when we start in on the sugar. And then we do, what are the other ones? The good ones. Protein, carbs, which are just sugars, but we're counting them as good, and fiber. Those are the other 3 that we're going to be focusing on as well. So we have 6 different things that we need to do before the end of the year, and then we'll keep tracking those things. And overall, I think we're doing fairly well at this stage. I feel like I've lost my way a little bit in that I haven't really made much progress. So I think that this is going to help if I'm a little more strict on this and go that way, which I feel like I've said before. And I really hope it's not coming across and I'm going, oh, I'm going to make changes. Don't worry. This is going to be the one time. And then don't do anything. Because, it is one of those things that I'm looking back and I had to go back and look through the month as a whole to say, obviously I'm not doing something right. Because although I'm losing and then I gain like 0.4 and then I lose 1.2 and then I gain 0.4, I'm doing something wrong, obviously. So that's what I need to focus on. So there we go. And as I say, I feel like I've said this time and time again, and I'm hoping it's not getting to a point where you're just rolling your eyes going, yep, he's doing something wrong. He has to buckle down, step up his game, and get back to where he needs to be. Because that's what I would do, except without that douchey voice. So thanks. Thanks for being supportive. Anyway, we're going to keep going. I'm going to stop because once again, I've run out of things, and I don't want to recap everything. If you need reminders, go back and watch them. But that's it for this video. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.